Just a second. Yeah. So last time we were on our way to proving the box formula, and so let me recall what we did. So we started with this determinant, uh, which we already. So using the non-intersecting lattice path formulation, we showed that the number of plane partitions inside an A by B by C box is given by the determinant of this A by A matrix. And then we started manipulating it. So we removed some factors, and we arrived at this stage, this formula. And then I said that we are going to use this lemma of Krathon-Thaler's, which we will prove later today. And with this kind of natural substitution, we arrived at exactly this product over here. So q to the I minus q to the b plus a up to q to the I minus q to the b plus a plus 1. That is this half, and the remaining is q to the I minus q to the j minus c minus 1 up to q to the I minus q to the 1 minus c. That's this factor. Okay, so and then I sort of wrote this step, and I got horribly confused as to how this factor came about. So let me just clarify that quickly. So this is what I've written. So I want to explain this formula, this factor, and it's really actually elementary. I just confused myself. So this was the prefactor over there, and we have obtained exactly this from Krathon-Thaler's lemma. And so what remains is exactly this. What remains for me to explain is this prefactor. Remember, I had already explained this. So what I had is that. So let me go back there. So for each from column wise, we have removed these factors, and from the rows we have removed these factors. So actually, I could, I mean, I had written J over here just to make sure that it's clear that I am removing these common factors according to columns and these common factors according to rows. And so now, now it's, I mean, now it doesn't matter. I just have this, I mean, there's only one product, it's just, so the J is just a dummy variable outside. And so it's okay to replace by I. Here the J anyway cancels. So I'm left with Q to the C, I minus 1, minus I choose 2, plus I squared, minus IA. Right? And so this is, so now if you look at, so this is Q to the, if you look at the common factor of I, so this is I times C minus A, that's that factor. I have a minus C, and then I have a plus I squared minus I into I minus 1 by 2, and if you just stare at this for a moment, you get I into I plus 1 by 2 over here, which is exactly, so I into I plus 1 by 2 is exactly I plus 1 choose. Okay, so it was that's all it was. I mean, there was nothing else, and I just horribly confused myself. Okay, so is that clear? Any questions about that? Okay. So now let me go back to this last product. I'll write that again, and then we'll. So I've already explained that the sign goes away, and this extra factor of q goes away, and so what we are left with is to evaluate this product. Okay, so let's I should have copy pasted this, but okay, never mind, I can do it again. So let us look at so this here. Okay, so I'll just write it again. So product I equals 2 to A, Q to the IC minus A minus C plus I plus 1 choose 2, as I just explained, plus I A minus I. All these other factors I had, I think, convincingly explained. Minus C plus I minus 1 times A plus 1 minus I. Times this determinant, times this product, I equals 1 to A, product K equals 1 to B plus C, minus 2 by K, divided by product L equals 1 to something, A plus 2 minus I, minus 2 power L, product N equals 1 to C plus I minus 1, minus 2 to the N, I. So all these products are inside this bigger product, and then we have these other two products. So product 1 less than equal to I less than J less than equal to A. So these factors, remember, were coming from the lemma 1 minus q to the J minus I, and product 2 less than equal to I less than or equal to J less than equal to A, 1 minus q to the B plus C plus J minus I plus 1. Okay, so now let us look at the this power of q in front. So the power of q or the prefactor of q is, what is it? So it's the sum over I going from 2 to A. Let me just expand everything so that we can cancel the obvious things. IC minus IA minus C plus I into I plus 1 by 2 plus I plus IA minus I squared. Now let me expand this. Get minus AC. So there's an I minus 1 hidden over here. So this is plus I minus 1. So if I take the I minus 1 common, I get an A from here. And this is already with a minus sign, so I get an A plus C. And the remaining is an I minus 1 squared with an overall minus sign because this is 1 minus sign. Okay. So now let me cancel terms. So there's a minus IA and plus IA. Okay. And now let me simplify a little more. So this is sum I equals 2 to A again. So I have an IC over here and I have another IC over here. So I have a 2 IC. I have a minus C over here and I have another minus C over here. So that's a minus 2C. Now let's look at the I squared factors. I have an I squared by 2, a minus I squared and a minus I squared. So that's minus 3I squared by 2. Stop me anytime there's any confusion, please. So then I have a plus I by 2 and plus 2i from this expansion. So plus 5i by 2 minus AC as before. I have taken care of the C factors over here. So what remains is the A factors. So then plus AI minus A, right? And then there's this constant term here, which is minus 1. Okay, so now let me sum. So let us look at the constant term. So I have a 2C constant in I mean, minus 2C minus AC minus A minus 1. So this is minus AC plus 2C plus A plus 1. How many terms are there? This is the constant in I, so I just have A minus 1 terms, right, because I starts with 2. And now let's look at the terms proportional to I. So I have 2C there plus 5 by 2, or plus A plus 5 by 2. And now I'm summing I from 2 to A. So I have, if it were 1 to A, it would be A into A plus 1 by 2, but I'm not counting I equal to 1, so I subtract that off. And lastly, I have to look at the I squared term. There's only one, so now you remember the formula for the sum of I squared. This was also in homework 2. So this is A into A plus 1 into 2A plus 1 by 6. But I have to subtract off the I. 1 squared is 1. Okay. Now let's do a massive expansion. Okay, so let me group these terms separately so that there's no confusion. So I'll take this term first. So I get minus A squared C. So I'm let me take the term proportional to A. So then minus 2AC minus A squared minus A, and then the term proportional to 1, but now there's an extraordinary sign. So this is plus AC plus 2C plus A plus 1. So that's the first term. And then I have plus, okay, now it's going to get a bit messy because there's factors of half all over the place. So the first term is when this multiplies with this, so the 2 cancels out, so I get A squared C plus AC, and then a minus 2C, so that takes care of this term. And now when I expand this, I get an A cubed by 2 plus A squared by 2, right, this term minus A. And then I get 5 by 4 A squared plus 5 by 4A minus 5 by 2. Okay, so that takes care of that term. And lastly, so okay, so what I have done over here is take the 6 common and cancel the 3 with the 6. So then I have a minus 1/4 outside, and then I have okay, so for the first terms I just expand this out, so I get 2A cubed plus 3A squared, right? So 2A cubed is from here. I have a 3A when I multiply this, and then there's an A extra, and then a plus A, and the constant term is now a 6. Okay, so everybody agrees? Now let me start to cancel. So let's look at the A squared C terms. So there's this and this, so they cancel out. And now let me look at, I don't know, the AC term. So I have minus 2ac, I have a plus ac and plus ac. So that cancels out. And now I have the c term, so I have a plus 2c and a minus 2c. So they cancel. Okay. So now all the c terms are gone. Now let's look at a cubed. So I have an a cubed by 2 over here and a minus 2a cubed by 4 over here, which is the same thing. So they cancel out. Now let's look at a squared. So I have a minus a squared. I have a plus a squared by 2 plus 5 by 2, 5 by 4 a squared and minus 3 by 4 a squared. So 5 by 4 minus 3 by 4 is 2 by 4, which is a half. So that's with a plus sign. So I have a plus half a squared plus half a squared, that's a squared, which cancels this. Okay, so the a squared terms go away. Now let's look at the a terms. I have minus a plus a. Let me just cancel out that out right here. And then I have minus a plus 5 by 4a minus 1 by 4a, which also cancels. And lastly, I have the constant term. I have a 1 over here and a minus 5 by 2 and a plus 3 by 2. 6 by 4 is 3 by 2. And so So amazingly, everything cancels as it should, and then we get a big result. So there is no prefactor. Okay. All right. So that's very satisfactory. So now let's look at the remaining factors. Okay. So okay. So now let's go back here. So I have this power of, I have this product which depends overall on I. And then I have these two products which are kind of separate. But you know, it's easy to include them inside because here this is utterly trivial. I fix an I and j runs from I plus 1 to a. And I have this factor. So I will squeeze that in over here. Here I runs from 2 to a. So what I will do is I will multiply and divide by this case when I is 1, and I'll include that also. For here now j goes from I to a. Okay, so let me write all that carefully. So product I equals 1 to a. And the numerator, the first term is the same as before. So k equals 1 to b plus c, 1 minus q power 2. No change. The second factor, as I just explained, j goes from I plus 1 to a, 1 minus q to the j minus I. And the second, or the third factor, j goes from I to a, okay, 1 minus q to the b plus c plus j minus I plus 1. Okay. And the denominator is unchanged. Product L equals 1 to a plus b minus I minus q power L. Product M equals 1 to c plus I minus 1. And what I have to do now is to compensate for this extra term when I equals 1. Right? So let's see what happens. So when I equals 1, j runs from 1 to a. Right? And so I just substitute I equal to 1 over here, and then this term cancels. Right? So minus 1 plus 1, this part cancels. So I get 1 minus q to the b plus c plus j, where j runs from 1 to a. 1 minus q to the b plus c plus j. Everybody agrees? Okay, so now let us do some manipulations over here. So let me bring this let me bring these two terms in the form j goes from 1 to something. Okay. So here I will, so what I am doing is looking at the inside term. I is fixed. Okay. So this part is the same. So product k equals 1 to b plus c, 1 minus q bar k. And now I'll replace j by j minus I. Right. So then I get j goes from 1 to a minus I, and here it's 1 minus q to the j. So that was the obvious thing to do here. Here I'll replace j by j minus I minus 1. So j goes from 1 to a minus I plus 1. And now what do I get? So this part becomes j. So this is exactly q plus b, q raised to b plus c plus j. And the denominator is still unchanged. Okay, now just look at that. So this is product L goes from 1 to a plus b minus I, 1 minus q bar L. Product M goes from 1 to c plus I minus 1, 1 minus q bar L. Okay, but now let us see what's happening. So look at these two terms. The first and the last term in the numerator. Here k goes from 1 to b plus c, and I have 1 minus q bar k. And here j start the power of 1 minus. The factors are 1 minus q to the b plus c plus 1 up to b plus c plus a minus I plus 1. So these two combine, you see, in a natural way. And I'll get product k equals 1 to a plus b plus c minus I plus 1. 1 minus q bar k. Okay. And now look at these two terms. So the middle term in the numerator and the first term over here. So the terms cancel up to a minus I. So it starts with a minus I plus 1 and goes up to a minus I plus b. And this term remains. Okay, so this is product L equals a minus b plus 1 to a minus b. Oh, sorry. A minus I plus 1 to a minus I plus b. 1 minus q bar L. And the m term is still unchanged. So this product M equals 1 to c plus I minus 1 minus. Okay, so this term actually simplifies over here. Okay, so we have managed to fairly simplify this computation. And now I'm putting it back. So okay, so now here is a nice trick which will help us. Okay, so now notice here what I will do is in these two terms. So okay, so before that, this is now we are now taking the product of this over all I running from 1 to a. So there's this product for I equals 1, this product for I equals 2, and so on. So you know, all of these are being multiplied, and there is you know, so then I can sort of cancel across different values of I. So to help me do that, I'm going to replace I by A minus I plus 1 in the K and L products. No, K and, just a second, K and M products. No, sorry, just a second. So C plus, no, K and L products. But not in the M product. I'm allowed to do that because this is, I mean, this is a big fat product. I mean, you can do you know, all of these are being multiplied, so you know that just amounts to a rearrangement of terms. Okay, so then we get. So now I'm back to the whole thing. So product I equals 1 to A. So here when I do that, I will get product K equals 1 to B plus C plus I. So I've replaced I by A minus I plus 1. And I'll get 1 minus Q bar K. And now I take the product L equals, so here I'll get I, and here I'll get I plus B minus 1. So 1 minus Q bar I. And the M product is still exist. And remember, I still have that product of J. J going from 1 to A, 1 minus Q to the B plus C plus J. Okay. So now, okay. Okay, so now let us see what is going on. So here I get M going from 1 to C plus I minus 1, and here K going from 1 to B plus C plus I. So now I can cancel terms over here, and okay, I can combine steps, but maybe let's go slow. So this is now equal to product I equals 1 to A, product K going from, instead of 1, I'll start with C plus I, right? Because the terms from 1 to C plus I minus 1 will cancel out. So K will start from C plus I and go to B plus C plus I, 1 minus Q bar K. But actually I can do more because of this outer factor. You see the last term for each I, so if I had called this another I, over here, then you see that the B plus C plus I cancels for each I. So I have, in other words, I have one factor for each I, and that's exactly the top factor over here. So I'll cancel, this goes from C plus I to B plus C plus I minus 1, and the L term remains as is. L equals I to I plus B minus 1, 1 minus Q bar. Okay, so now it's a nice compact form, and now I can expand it. Okay, so now let me expand. So this is now product I equals 1 to A. 1 minus q to the I plus c, so that's a lowest term over here, all the way up to 1 minus q to the I plus c plus b minus 1 divided by 1 minus q power I up to 1 minus q power I plus b minus 1. Now you see the similarity. For each term over here, term wise, I have a c extra. Well, you could have seen it there. So the number of terms is b, right? In the numerator, and so also in the denominator. Right? So so let me write it in another way. So this is product I equals 1 to A, product j equals 1 to B. And what am I doing? I'm, the difference between these terms is always c. So it is 1 minus q power I plus j plus c minus 1 divided by 1 minus q power I plus j minus 1. Right? Because when j equals 1, this corresponds to the first term, and when j equals b, this corresponds to this term in the numerator. And similarly, in the denominator, when j is 1, it's this term, and when j is b, it's this term. Okay, but this you can think of as a telescopic product. So I equals 1 to A, j equals 1 to B, k equals 1 to C, 1 minus q to the I plus j plus k minus 1, 1 minus q to the I plus j plus k minus 2. So if you just think about it, this is like a telescopic product. I mean, if you just expand all of these terms out, the denominator will only survive for k equals 1, and so I'll get I plus j minus 1, and the numerator will only survive for k equals c, and I'll get I plus j plus c minus 1. And this is exactly the box. Okay. So everything works out perfectly, and we get the right answer. Any questions about this proof? Well, we are not yet done. Remember, we have to prove this lemma. This one. But modulo that in all the calculations. Is it clear? Alright. So now let me prove this lemma. So to complete the proof, we need to prove proof of okay, so this is the statement. So let us stare at this. Okay, so let me remind you, we have x1 to xn, a2 to an, b2 to bn as parameters, indeterminates, commuting, and we take xi plus an up to xi plus aj plus 1, xi plus bj up to xi plus b2 as indeterminates, as the ijth entry. And then we take the determinant of that invariant matrix, and we get this van der Monde term times this product of bi minus aj. So let me show you on Sage. Yeah, so I have written this program for which I call the Krafft matrix, and here is how the I didn't define my variables. So I have three sets of variables, a, b, and x, and to be proper, I should define this inside, but actually we'll need them to factorize. So here's how this matrix looks like. So each term has, if you look at it, has n minus 1 factors. Okay, so the first column has all A factors. The second column has 1B and the rest A factors, and so on, all the way up to the last column having all B factors. Okay, so it's a nice symmetric matrix, symmetric in that sense. And now if I take the determinant, it's going to be some horrible thing, but if you factor, it nicely factors. Here's the Vandermonde term. So for n equals 3, we will have I and j running from 2 to 3, j greater than or equal to I. So we'll have 3 terms. And because of the way Sage writes it, it's A first and B last. You get this extra minus. Otherwise, there's no minus. So if you do 4, now you see it's going to be a much larger expression. Because we factored. So you now have 6 terms for the A minus B and the minus, and you will see. So let's look that the B term is always in the B index is always smaller or equal to the A index. So B1 minus A1, B1 minus A2, B2 minus A2, B1 minus A3 equal to minus A3. Okay, and the other part is A. Okay, so at least it checks out. So let's prove it. So the other reason I wanted to show you is you can see that the ith row differs from the jth row only in the replacement of xi going to xj. So there's no other change, and this you can already see from the entry. I mean, there's only xi over here, so the x's only depend on the row variable. Okay, so from there, it's clear that since setting xi equal to xj makes the ith and jth rows equal, the determinant becomes 0. So we get a factor this usual Vandermonde factor, 1 less than equal to I less than j less than equal to n, xi minus xj. So the remainder has to be a symmetric function in the exercise. Any term which is not symmetric is going to cancel out when you replace xi by xi. So in x1. Okay. But what is the degree of x1? So, but the degree, so let's look here. So the degree of x1, because there are n minus terms, n minus 1 terms, n minus 1 terms in any ijth entry, as I said before, the degree of x1 is going to be x1 power n minus is going to be n minus 1. X1 is n minus 1 on both sides. Here too, you are going to have n minus 1 factors involving x1. So Right. So for the argument, I also need that x1, or here if you want, x0 appears only in the first column. So first row. So every when you do the Leibniz expansion, every term will contain a polynomial in x1 of degree. So it can be at most n minus 1. But here, yeah. So here the degree is n minus 1. So what remains is a constant. So the remaining factor is a constant in x1 to xn. So now we want to see what the remaining part is. So now notice that if we set xi equal to minus ai for 2 less than equal to I less than equal to n, the matrix becomes upper triangular. Right. So if you see, if I set x1 equals minus a1, this term will cancel. x2 equals minus a2, this term will cancel, and so will this, and so on. And whereas none of the diagonal term will not cancel. So because here we only have a starting at a I plus 1. So the diagonal terms will not cancel, and neither will the upper triangular terms. So you will get an upper triangular matrix with non-zero entries on the diagonal. So its determinant is non-trivial. It's just the product. What is it? So let us see what we get from here. So I just take the product of all these things where I set xi to minus a. So, but I have the factor of x1, remember. So let's keep that factor outside. So when I and j are 1, there's no b term. Right? Remember, I said in the first column you only have it. Okay, so we have. So I have the product k equals 2 to n x1 plus ak, that is from the 1 entry, and now for all other entries I take the product 2 less than or equal to I less than j less than equal to n. So I am going to take a product of these entries. So here j starts, remember I am setting j equal to I, so this starts at I plus 1. So I have ai plus 1 minus ai all the way up to an minus ai. So aj minus ai, j runs from I plus 1 to n. So that's this factor over here. And the product now look at the b terms. So I'll get b running from 2 to I, right, when I set j. So 2 less than equal to I less than equal to n, less than equal to j less than equal to n. Right? Let me put k just to make sure there's no confusion. So here I have minus ai and I have bk. So bk minus ai. Okay. because k is smaller than I, and I have k. No, sorry, I made a mistake over here. Just a second. Yeah, this should be the other way around. K is smaller. Right? So bk minus A. Okay, and now if you compare with the Vandermonde, so this part. So this part is the Vandermonde part with xi equals minus a. Right? So here I would get xi minus ai, x1 minus ai for all I, and here I would get aj minus ai. So oh, maybe there's a minus sign. Oh boy, I didn't look at that carefully. So okay, so we can do that. So minus 1 to the so however many terms we have here, which is so I think it's 1 plus 2 all the way up to n minus 1, so that's n choose 2. Right? And here there's no factor because it's yeah, here there's no factor because this is exactly minus xk. Oh no, sorry, I take that back. There is no factor. There's no factor because this is xi's are minus ai, so this is actually xi minus xj, right? So which is exactly what we want, and you combine this, you get exactly the value. And the remaining term is the constant. So this is the this gives the constant. Which is exactly what we wanted. So if you compare over here, I just replace I don't know I by k, j by I, and I get this. So that proves the limit. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So now so we have thus completed the proof of McMahon's box formula. Now I want to move towards generalizing this to symmetry classes, but I won't tell you all symmetry classes, of course, and that would be too much. But I'll prove at least the case of symmetric plane partitions, which is also an interesting story. So let me set the stage for that. So so we now want to consider symmetry classes of plane partitions. So remember, I told you there are 10 symmetry classes. I had listed all of them. You know, we have vertically symmetric plane partitions, which are just called symmetric. Then there's cyclically symmetric. There's totally symmetric. Then if you include complementation, there are 6 more classes, you know, with long initials. But so we will start with the symmetric plane partition. So recall that plane partition is symmetric plane partition is phi if pi ij equals pi ji for all ij. So remember we had said plane partitions we will think of as infinite arrays with finite sums. So example something like that. So 4 3 2 1 1 3 2 2 1 2 2 1 1. Right? So this is symmetrical. So it's like conjugation for Tableau. Oh, wait, I'm not talking about Tableau, but okay. Yeah, so it's like matrix transpose. Okay, so it will be convenient to write this in a slightly different way. So let B of ABC be the set of ijk such that I runs from 1 to A, J runs from 1 to B, and K runs from right? And then a plane partition can be thought of as a subset inside A by B by C. Is thought of as a subset of BABC such that if subset, let's say, let me also call it pi, such that if ijk belongs to pi, then so do I minus 1 jk, ij minus 1 k, and I minus 1. For appropriate, oh sorry, ijk minus 1, right? For appropriate, if they are positive, if one of them is 1, then you look at the other two conditions. Right? So, we are just thinking of the plane partition as a collection of boxes instead of as an array like that. Okay, it is completely clear. This point of view is useful for talking about symmetric classes. Okay, let me see. Okay, need some notation. So we will consider symmetric plane partitions SPPs in BAAC, right? I mean, if you're talking about symmetric plane partitions, the B might as well be equal to A. Otherwise, one of them is carrying its extra information. I mean, is redundant. Okay, so an SPP in BAAC is a plane partition phi that satisfies this extra condition that ijk in pi if and only if jik. Right? So, right? Okay. So now we want to take. So you want to consider generating functions of symmetric plane partitions. So to write down the formula, it will help to think sort of group theoretically, to think about symmetries. And so let me set some notation. So consider the action of the symmetric group S2 on the first two coordinates of pi, pi and SPP. Right. So this is a group action in the sense that you have learned. So this is because of this condition. So if ijk belongs, then jik also belongs. And now we are thinking of pi in this sense. Okay, it's a subset of BAAC. Okay, so let BAAC mod S2 denote the set of elements, the set of orbits. Sorry. So the orbits of the elements of BAAC under this action. Okay. So there are two kinds of orbits. I mean, if you look at this example, you know, either your S2 action takes a cell over here to a cell over here and then back, which is so there's only one non-trivial element in S2, right? The transposition 1, 2. So it which is then involution. So it either exchanges cells over here, or on this diagonal it doesn't do anything. That's just the idea. Right? So there are two kinds of elements. So the first is singletons. Of the form IIK, or doubletons of the form IJK, J. Right? This forms, these are the only kinds of orbits. So for an orbit, eta, let mod eta denote the size. So this is either 1 or 2. Okay. So further notation, and define the height of a cell. So let the height of ijk, the height of ijk is I plus j plus k minus 2. So that height of 1, 1, 1 is equal to 1. So this measures the diagonal height. The height in the 1, 1, 1 direction. It's a body diagram, main diagram. Let's say distance along the 1, 1, 1. Okay. And just to clarify, the height of an orbit is the height of any of its orbits. So, at least in this case, you will see that it's the same. Okay, so here's the story. So McMahon, after he had conjectured the box formula, and then he had also looked at symmetric plane partitions, and he managed to find conjectures for both generating functions. So he managed to prove the generating function for all plane partitions in an A by B by C box, but he could not prove the generating function for symmetric plane partitions in an A by C box. So that remained open for a long time. So this was McMahon's conjecture. So here is the way he wrote it. So this is sigma pi contained in the AAC. Which has 2 of pi equals pi, q to the mod pi. So he found this nice product formula, and let me write it down carefully. So there are 2 factors. So product I equals 1 to A, product k equals 1 to C, 1 minus q to the 1 plus 2i plus k minus 2 divided by 1 minus q to the 2i plus k minus 2 times another product, product 1 less than or equal to I less than j less than or equal to A, product k equals 1 to C, and here let me write it in a slightly more convoluted looking form, but you will see why it's useful in a second. 2 plus 2 times I plus j plus k minus 2. So yes, I know that sometimes it's 1 minus q to the 2i plus j plus k. Okay. So you would notice something similar if you compare with the box formula. That in the first term, the 1 minus q power whatever is 1 larger than whatever is below. In the second term, it's 2 larger than what is below. Okay. Right. So that's why I've written this way. So 2 plus twice that and twice that. That's one reason. The other thing you would maybe notice is that here this is similar to that if I wrote this as I plus k. And okay, so then this two terms start to look a bit similar. So this looks like the diagonal elements, this looks like the off diagonal elements. And but what to do about this power? What to do about this extra factor 2? So it was Ian MacDonald who realized that this could be rewritten as this can be written, the right hand side can be rewritten as a product of this orbit eta in BAAC mod S2 1 minus q power mod eta 1 plus height eta divided by 1 minus q power mod eta height. Okay. So so let's see. So if we look at, so I remember I told you there are two kinds of orbits, singletons and doubletons. And here, if you see the singleton term, so you take something like IIK, right? And then mod eta is just 1. So I get 1 plus I plus k minus 2, which is that, which is why I written it this way. And here it is I plus k minus 2. Okay. And if you take something in the doubleton orbit, you're only going to take one side. Right? So that's I less than j or I greater than j. You take one of those. Don't take both. And then what do you get? So the height of the orbit is now, the size of the orbit is now 2. So mod eta is 2. So I have 2 times 1 plus I plus j plus k minus 2. So this, if you like, will go inside and then you get 1 plus I. And here this will be mod 2 times 1 I plus j. Okay, so this fits beautifully. And so in again one of those coincidences, this was proved. MacDonald, after he reframed it this way, could use the theory of symmetric functions to prove it. And slightly before him, Andrews proved it using completely different means, using hypergeometric theory. So this was proved by Andrews in 78 and by MacDonald in 79. Okay. Again, so one of those coincidences. Okay. So MacDonald wrote it this way, and you know, okay. So I should also say, before I go to more history, this I should note that this generalizes the box formula. If we replace S2 by S1, the trivial containing the identity. So in that case, there is only one kind of orbit, singletons. Mod eta is always 1. Height is I plus j plus k minus 2. this will range over all cells, and this will give you I plus A plus K minus 1. So McDonald sort of generalized it in the natural way, and then why stop there? I mean, there are other symmetric classes. So McMahon did not realize, but McDonald realized that there was another symmetric class, non-trivial symmetric class, which was that there were two other symmetric classes, which were the cyclically symmetric and totally symmetric. So in this slide, McDonald generalized McMahon or whatever conjecture formulas for CSPs, cyclically symmetric. I've already introduced this notation yesterday. And TSPPs, totally symmetric. Okay, and so let me describe them. So McDonald proved this using this formulation, but he could not prove this either of these two. So this was McDonald's conjecture. So this is an important landmark in this story. So for a CSPP, where did I write it? Okay, so recall that a CSPP phi in. Now I need to take all three sides to be the same. Is satisfies ijk in pi if you only have jk. Right? So you're kind of switching the coordinate axes cyclically, and this will also therefore imply that Kij is okay. And then the cyclic group C3 acts on CSPPs. Can someone tell me how many orbits, what are the kinds of orbits there are here?
There'll be one of singleton, I.
Yes?
There'll be one of singleton, I.
There'll be singletons, yes. And?
Then we'll have tripletons, IIJ.
What do you mean IIJ?
IIJ, IJI, JII.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yes. So yeah, and then anything else? What about IJKs? If you have IJKs, they will also have B tripletons in the same way. So I don't know why you said I don't know why you said IIJ and not IJK. Yeah, so there will be singletons and tripletons. That's right. Yeah. So if you have all three coordinates equal, you will have only one element in the orbit, otherwise you will have three. So so let eta be okay. I mean, I'm going to talk in terms of orbits, but it will be clear. So the conjecture is sigma pi in BAAA pi a CSPP q to the mod pi. This is equal to the product over eta in BAAA mod C3 now, and 1 minus q to the exactly the same formula, mod eta 1 plus I theta divided by 1 minus q to the mod eta I theta. Okay, so amazingly the same formula holds, but the methods that McDonald applied to prove this, just flat out did not work. Okay, so this was an important landmark. So I think this was formulated sometime in the early 70s, and people spend an enormous amount of effort trying to prove this. So this was finally proved by Mills, Robbins, Rumsey. In 82, and in fact, in the 80s, in the early 80s, Stanley wrote in 81. I think he must have also tried that this was the single most important problem in enumerator probability. I mean, several people had tried quite hard to prove it, and already this McMahon's conjecture was a big leap, because the tricks that McMahon could use for proving the box formula just did not work. I mean, you really needed, there was a change. I mean, you really needed more sophisticated machinery to get to it. I mean, either using hypergeometric series theory, or symmetric function theory. And here, to prove McDonald's conjecture, I mean, you needed even more machinery. And in fact, Mills, Robbins, Rumsey proved this while trying to prove the alternating sign matrix. So it's like it's like we are going higher and higher in the hierarchy. So as I said, this was a big open conjecture, and the second conjecture was about TSPPs. So recall. So let me just say McDonald's TSPP conjecture. So recall. So recall that a TSPP pi in BAAA again satisfies IJK in pi if and only if sigma of ijk in pi for all sigma in S3, the symmetric group. Right, so if an ijk belongs, then any of its coordinate transforms belong. So what are the orbits over here? Anybody? What kinds of orbits do you have? Yes, Mohit? I can't hear you.
We will still have a three orbits from C3 when I, J, K are totally different.
When I, J, K are totally different, what did you say?
There will be 3 cycles.
Yes.
And then we'll have two cycle as well, which is the same thing which happened in S2. That is
Yes.
I, K.
Right.
And then we'll have one single that will be I.
No, sorry. Wait. Wait. So if you have I, K, then there are 3 elements, no, in that. So I'll have K, I, and I, K, I. Right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So that will be 3. And if you have I, J, K all distinct, then you will have 6 because all of them are distinct, so they will be size 6, right? So there are 3 kinds of orbits: singletons, size 3, and size 6. Okay.
So we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So I was saying, in this case, this product eta in BAAA mod S3 1 minus q power mod eta 1 plus height eta divided by 1 minus q to the mod eta height eta is not a polynomial. Okay, so that, I mean, it was working nicely for S2 and C3. You know, it sort of failed for S3, but it's not completely. Okay, so here I should say for large A greater than or equal to 3, I think. Let me just say for large A. However, so the story is not, I mean, the situation is not that bad. In the limit q going to 1, this turns out to be an integer. So it's not, and you know, the thing that you want happens, the cardinality of pi in BAAA, pi TSPP is the limit q going to 1 of that formula. This is product eta in BAAA mod S3 1 plus height eta. So in this case, the power, I mean, if you take the limit, you know, you do your usual L'Hopital business, the eta factor will cancel. So it does not depend on the cardinality. You just get this. So you know, again, some magic has happened, and this formula seems to work. So this was, so then so this was McMillan's TSPP conjecture, and this was proved by Steinbridge. I think it was 85. And he used it by proving a novel generalization of the Gesser-Viennot lemma. And let me see, I'll try to prove this. So for now, I want to go towards proving McMahon's thing, actually, using McDonald's strategy, which is a symmetric function. Okay, so maybe this is a good time to stop. Are there any questions? Okay, so then let me stop recording.